Yes, because well, I think so. Am I willing to have it all? Right, that question.
Yep.
For whatever reason, health does not come up first for me.
I know.
Like, well, yeah, because I've been fighting this nutrition journey, but I think I literally, like, I do not want to run, I do not want to work out, I do not want to jump, I do not, like, I don't know why I'm this way. I don't even know. I'm now digging through.
Yeah.
Having it all means I have to be alive to have it.
Yeah. And what if it doesn't have to look like it used to look in your mind of like being healthy, or in your mind of like having a fitness routine? Like, it doesn't have to be running, jumping. Like, what if it was more dancing, you know, I don't know, like stretching your body, going for long walks outside, like redefining exactly what you want it to look like, because the way you used to do it didn't bring you joy.
It's so interesting that you should say that, because a friend of mine, Shoshana French, you know her. She's
Mm-hmm.
an amazing intuitive and coach, and she's all things, okay? But she said to me, like, what if none of what you think you're expecting actually looks like anything that you have experienced before? Right. And I think and it's funny because I was telling, we were talking at dinner last night, and I was saying, I don't want to get back to anything. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to get back to that one weight. I don't want to get back to that time when I could, but I don't want to get back. Like, even when we're talking about COVID, it's like getting back to when we could. I don't want to get back to any of that. I actually want to get forward to what it looks like now to be, live, do, considering like where things are now. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, I don't think you get rebirth to like go back to a part of self that you've already experienced. And like, from what I've heard you say, like the past, especially the past couple of weeks, but like, the past year, is like you're in massive transformation mode, like massive. And so you're exactly right. Like, rebirth does not look like going back to a version of Shelly that was, 5 years ago, because that version will never exist again, because you've died and now you are someone new.
So I actively fight against, let me say resistance when it comes to like certain foods, right? So you told me, hey, just lay off of dairy a little bit, like lay off of some dairy these weeks. And I'm like, but dairy-free things don't taste well. I'm gonna eat all the dairy, like I'm so defiant. So this ice cream, okay, this Cool House ice cream is actually dairy-free, and it's pretty good. I've been eating it.
Let me see it.
I will say, okay, I will also say I've eaten a lot of it, so I'm gonna show you. But I will also say,
Ooh, look at that.
This one is a peanut butter fudge chip. So I will also say that, like, I have this expectation of what it will taste like, where I'm like, ew, it's gonna be bad. And so I'm like, oh no, this is actually really good, right? But why do I do this with all things? Like, I do this with like gluten free. I'm just rebelling again. I don't know if I can do gluten free.
Well, here's the thing. Where do you allow yourself to throw tantrums in life?
Oof. Where do you allow yourself to throw tantrums in life?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Like, we all have our place where we're like gonna put up the resistance, right? And like with you, you're like, your spiritual prayer practice is like on point, your business is like on point. Like, it appears sometimes that food is still the place where like you allow yourself to throw a tantrum. And that's like, you need that outlet in some area of your life. So it's almost kind of like, yeah, maybe you should play the game with yourself a little bit of like, yeah, like I am working out some things through the avenue of resisting different food things that I know will be, health supportive.
So cleaning. So I hired a cleaning crew.
Yeah. Amazing.
Right. And this nutrition journey, and now I'm working with you, right? So like I like where I do throw my tantrums, I'm also very conscious about having coaches and people to stand in that space. Because right now, so after we did the cleanse, right?
Yeah.
I feel like my palate was just completely reset. And I've done cleanses before. I've done like, oh, let's do a week of juice. And like, I've done that kind of stuff before. But this one really honing in on the liver itself.
Yeah.
It really created something I feel like I can't go back to before the cleanse right now. Like, I feel like, yeah.
And it's nice to have a goal of like getting the liver, which I think of like as the body's control center, right? When your control center is functioning really well, all other aspects of your health and your body are going to function really well. So kind of focusing on getting the liver healthier as opposed to being like, I want to lose 10 pounds is an easier, or it's not easier, but it's a nice thing to focus on, because the rhetoric around cleansing is so geared towards body image, and like it doesn't have to be that way, because cleansing was really developed to dive deeper into self, right? And self-discovery and finding who we are without, our vices, or without comforting ourselves with food, right? Because then a lot of emotions start to come up and we have a chance and opportunity to work through them.
You know what? That's so interesting that you said it, because I don't know that I think people look at cleanses that way. I think because of the commercialization of
society. Like, because if you look at cleanses, it's like they're all marketed like lose 10 pounds, whatever. Some are more. I think wellness has done a better job of like being like, no, it's not really about that. It's about like helping to heal the body so that we can, feel really good mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. But I don't think that's the message that we always heard around cleansing.
No, I think that's right. So I don't typically eat a lot. Like, I don't eat.
Yeah.
This week, so I'm getting into it more. I think my body feels like it's calling for more veggies. Like, I don't even want a whole lot of. I was pescatarian plus bacon anyway for the last year, but my body has lately been really calling for just veggies. Like, I'm proud of myself, because this week I did at least eat every day. But I also had lemon water every day. Also had veggies the majority of the 7 days. So for the most part, I ate veggies every night. I didn't really eat any meat until like yesterday or the night before. And that was some salmon and and we had crablets. But even when I ate the crablets, we had crab boil.
Yeah.
And the next day I woke up because of all the oil and everything, and I was like,
Yeah. So what do you think switched for you this week when it came to like nourishing your body multiple times a day with food?
Well, I have HelloFresh.
Okay.
And seeing all those bags in the fridge made me be like, okay, girl, you just wasting food for real now. Like, because everything comes in a bag, and it's like you really have no excuse. Everything's in the bag. The instructions are with it. Like, you really have no excuse not to cook this food. So I think there was that. I think there was like, I think I'm just transforming more into like not throwing so much of a tantrum. And so I'm like, well, I could just go in here, cook this kale right quick and not like, I don't need to go out and buy a whole, because I'm not going to eat a whole meal. I'm going to waste my money on buying a whole meal of something, because I'm not going to eat it. And then here I am with this food that I threw away. And I've done it a couple times over the last 2 weeks prior to this week. Is I've went out, bought some food, ate like a couple bites of it, and now I'm done. I'm like, dang, that was a waste of my money.
Yeah. Yeah. When you are like preparing for the day in the morning, you have your lemon water. Do you think ahead for, okay, this is what I'm going to have for lunch, this is what I'm going to have for dinner? Or are you like in the moment?
In the moment all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in the moment. I don't think about what I'm going to have for lunch or dinner. No. I mean, I might say to myself, ooh, I'm gonna have that one HelloFresh bag. You know, I'll have that for lunch or dinner, but yeah, I never end up going that route.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the nature of your your job. It's like your job is not to really think about what you're going to eat next. And I wonder how you would feel if you incorporated that more into your schedule, like scheduling like you would a business meeting.
Mm. So it's interesting. This is interesting around the question of like, am I willing to have it all, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like, well, what if eating and exercising and not again, like you said, it doesn't have to be running, whatever, but it could be whatever I do, dance,
Yeah.
whatever. What if that is what if that is a part of the all?
Yeah.
When you look at like it's funny because every time people get wealthy, they lose weight. Right. So it's like, they can have the most like, oh no, like I'm all about big people and big people should, look at Lizzo, look at Monique, look at Adele, look at, it's always
Yeah.
like, oh no, body positivity, like everybody should be whatever. And then next thing you know, they're like slimming down and everybody that's not slimming down is like, well, what happened to that though? What happened
Yeah.
to that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we've seen that a lot this year, especially with like celebrities, which has been interesting. I mean, Adele looks like a different person. Lizzo's journey is pretty fun to follow because she's like she's eating vegan, but I think she's still like you know being curvy is still really important to her.
Yeah, she is. But again, I think like when you think about the all, or you start being able to afford more, right? Because now you're like, I'm like, look, I don't want to clean. I'm about to hire a cleaning crew.
Yeah.
If you would have talked to me about 3 years ago, I would have been like, I'm gonna have to clean. I'm gonna have to get in here, no matter how much I'm throwing this tantrum and clean. Um,
Well, and is not putting your health first, holding on to old ideals to stay rooted in something that is part of your past life.
mm,
Almost like staying connected to that struggle is staying connected to like part of you that's not ready to be like 100% like, well shit, like you can hire someone to clean, like shit, you've got money in the bank, like you know but it's like, oh, but I still want this, you
that's
know
so strong because you get tied to your struggle as the motivation that caused
mm,
the success, right? So it's like, you know, I'm shooting in the gym, it's like I'm defying the odds. Like, and it's like, but after you have defied the odds, now what is it? And I think I went through that with my children too, because it was like, well, parents, teen moms don't typically graduate from high school. Well, I'm going to graduate from high school. Teen moms, children are not typically, smart or don't go to college. Well, my kids don't go to college. Well, now here I am, 2 kids in college, the 2 kids that were a part of that fight, and finding myself being like, well, what's my fight? And then finding myself being like, well, why do I even need a fight? Like, who told me? Like, America loves a good starter from the bottom story, right? So we always see those so highlighted, like teen mom, defies the statistics, graduates from high school, becomes a computer scientist, launches multi-million-dollar career, like that's what we hear. That's what we're always like given and fed. So I think we kind of lean into it. Like, sure, if they can do it, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna defy. I'm gonna move too. So I'm finding myself right now really not knowing what I'm doing. Not know what I'm doing. Like I know what I'm doing as far as my business is concerned, but like personally, I'm like, shoot. Like I think I told you, or I've been telling everybody, like I bought couches that you can't sleep on. Like who does that? Why I've never had a couch that wasn't like for sleeping. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we can sleep on this couch, lounge on this couch. So it really does feel like a whole different life. And I don't always know if I know what to grasp because you can grasp the struggle, right?
Yeah, I think a lot about like where does motivation come from when it doesn't come from like a little bit of like self-hatred.
Mm.
And I had to really redefine like where my motivation came from like the past couple of years because mine was so rooted in like negative self-talk. And it's it's hard to move out of that because there is so much motivation and like kind of hating, parts of yourself and wanting to change it. And
Ooh,
like when you don't have that, how do you motivate yourself?
where does motivation come if part of it doesn't come from hating yourself? Damn. That's such a strong question, yo. Gee, like that hit me. Like I don't even, that's so like that's huge. Oh my God. Because oh no, keep commenting. You're fine. I think, yeah, I don't even like I feel like I gotta sit with like I don't even
Yeah.
know.
I mean, and of course, like you don't have to have that answer right
Whew.
this second, but it's just something that I think a lot about because I think so many entrepreneurs, like, they're trying to prove to their dad that like they're good enough. They're trying to prove to like, all the kids in, you know, high school that whatever, that they're worthy, right? It's like rooted in not enoughness. So how do we root it in like we are enough and, you know, uh still finding motivation and like being enough.
It's funny you said it because you know how people write affirmations and put them on stickies, put
Yeah.
them on the wall, whatever. I had to actually go back and be like, let me pull these down because if they were written out of fear,
Mm.
if they were written out of struggle or out of like, some type of not, in my opinion, not the most positive energy, then that's actually not the most positive thing. So if you have to say to yourself, I am beautiful, then that means you probably don't believe you're beautiful.
Yeah.
Because the person
Yeah.
who thinks they're beautiful is not saying I believe I'm beautiful, right? Because they're not even thinking about it. It's just a part of their life.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about ways that you kind of move and flip um, affirmations or into like, well, how much belief do you have in this thing to start
Mm.
before you can actually be affirmed? Because you can't
Mm-hmm.
be affirmed in something you don't believe,
Yeah.
right? Affirmation means this belief kind of exists, and
Yeah.
then you're affirming it within yourself.
Well, I think it goes back to like the subconscious, right? Of like, you know, we create our realities not from our thoughts, but from our beliefs about ourselves, right? So if you have a track in your head of like you can say positive affirmations all day long, but if you truly don't believe that you're enough, you're not going to be able to manifest that you're enough. You have to go back, reprogram it, but then also like raise your self-worth around it. And it's so interesting.
So this is interesting around dating, right? So, and it's like, am I
Love this.
willing to, I know, right? It's just, yeah, let's go, let's do it. Um, in this, like, am I willing to have it all, right? For me, that includes some kind of partner, whatever that partner may look like in whatever agreement we have, right? But that includes a partnership with a romantic partnership, right?
Mm,
And so one of the things that I've really been struggling with lately is around like this nutrition bit and the weight piece around like, do the people is the man that makes more money, does that man date women who have my body type?
mm,
In this instance of like those men are typically more
yeah,
active. Because if we like looking at the flow of what I just said about even about Adele and Monique
yeah,
and Lizzo, this idea that like as you gain more wealth, you get more active, fit, you start eating different. Like as you gain more wealth, you start doing all these different things because now you see one, you want to be alive for it. But go ahead.
okay, so does the man who is successful and has the money or like has the can meet you, on all different levels, right? Does he have the same belief set you have? Or is he coming from a, I have to overachieve because I don't feel enough? So
Mm.
Not going to be an energetic alignment to you because, you know, it wouldn't be a vibrational match, right? So like, it's hard when you have this like certain level of man who is driven, successful, et cetera, et cetera. Like, do they even have time for a partnership?
But so
Some do, some don't prioritize that.
well, here's the thing. You know, in some of these instances, you know, I would be that person. Right. So it's like, do I even have time for that? You know,
Yeah.
if my willing to have it all includes a partner, I even have time for that? Right. Like, do I even have time to let that in? Right. And I think that like the overachiever thing is so interesting because like I think in a lot of ways I probably am an overachiever. I'm not the jerk kind, not the asshole kind, but I'm definitely an overachiever and I'm competitive in some instances.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that the vibrational match piece, to me, the vibrational match piece has nothing to do with our success. It's more about like, do you honor the spirit world? Do you believe in art? Do you know, I mean, do you know, understand art? Do you listen to certain music? Can we really, really vibe? But here's the kicker about that. You can vibe with some really, really broke people.
Totally. But that's the belief set, right? Like I was watching the Celtics game last night and there was like there's a player who like kind of fucked up, but he came back and he scored like 4 free throws and like really got the game for the Celtics, right? But like his belief, like you could just tell his belief about himself is that like he's the shit. And he came back and just like killed it, right? But like he messed up pretty big time, like at a pivotal moment. But if he had been like, oh man, like I'm not good, you know, like I'm not good enough, like he wouldn't have come back and scored all those goals, right? And so I thought that was so interesting because, you know, there are going to be some people who just are like, yeah, like I know what I'm bringing to the table is freaking awesome in all aspects of my life. I think that I think that sometimes financially, some people still have high self-worth even if they aren't worth a lot. Like
wait, back up. Some people still have high self-worth even though they're not worth a lot.
Yeah, like financial.
That,
like the monetary like isn't there, but maybe their belief set is that I'm abundant with friends, I'm abundant with family. Like it's not always that monetary value. It's a different type of abundance. It depends, I think, what you're looking for, right? Because you want to have similar, you know, you might want someone to pay for you when you go out to dinner.
What kind of abundance are you looking for? Oof. Yeah, that's a good question too. What kind of abundance are you looking for? And you know, that's overall. What kind of abundance are you looking for in a partner in your business you're bringing on? Because a lot of times people bring on businesses wonder whether they're not viable enough for investment. And it's like, hey, that business signals that you're looking for the level of abundance that does not match with an investor level of investment. Right? So people, it's like, hey, you actually, this says you're not ready for the level of abundance that an investor is ready for. And so that ROI piece is really interesting when you think about it from the standpoint of but you know what? I'm still stuck on the like people who have a lot of self-worth but are not worth a lot. Because you got some really beautiful men. They look amazing, okay? Body look amazing, all that, you know, like they boom, boom, boom. You know what I'm saying? Ain't got a dime, okay? I can't, like, and it's not that it's all about money, you know, but it is like your question. What kind of abundance am I looking for? Does this person have, Oprah says potential is not a quality. So I would say to everybody, like in business, potential matters. But I would say like looking at your business, looking at your relationships in general, looking at even intimate or more romantic relationships, what kind of abundance are you looking for? that also goes along with like, what is a part of your all? When you think about like, can you have it all? I feel like those questions are like, synonymous. Like, what is a part of your all? Do you have it all right now? If your have it all was basic shelter, food, water, lights, cable, a car, you might have it all already and you don't even know it.
Yeah. Well, and almost, I don't know. I also think like our perspective of like having it all has probably changed a little bit in the past 6 months, right? Like having a backyard may be having it all during a pandemic, but like, having access to your favorite restaurants during a non-pandemic is like having it all.
And what's interesting about that too is you brought up the word access. And so I did a panel for Small Business Week, National Small Business Week, around access. And so what does it mean to have all access when it comes to, again, growth, business, what you're working on? I think there's levels of access that people don't feel like they have. And that like acquiring that is not like I'm just going to walk, walk down the street and there's going to be the door. Like the work that it takes. So speaking of all this and abundance, another question that somebody asked me or that came up lately in a reading is, what if all of your hard work did not necessarily produce what you have? So like, what if I'm working so hard, I'm shooting in the gym, I'm grinding every night, right? What if that storyline is not what produced my successful Black Girl Ventures, but that my successful Black Girl Ventures was just given to me?
Well, do you think that goes back to, your transformation from hustling to handling, right? Like that is going from operating out of more of a masculine operation into a feminine operation of like, you have done so much transformational spiritual work this year, and that has coincided with, some massive, leaps and bounds in your business. So
yeah.
It doesn't feel like a coincidence, but it also feels like really divine timing as well, because it has all coincided like hand in hand.
It has. And because when I look over my life, right, and all of the experiences that I had, that like when I think of who I am right now and what I'm providing, what I'm able to provide, what we're doing with Black Girl Ventures, it literally is all the parts that I have experienced over the course of my journey, whether it was like for a year or 6 months, or, whether I was teaching for a short time or working in workforce development for a short time, or patent and trademark office for a short time, like all of those bits.
Yeah.
Like right now, all of that is like all that I'm using to constantly work through, produce, support all the women that we're working with now as Black Girl Ventures, building a team, running a team, making money for other people in the company. So even for people out there who are still working for a company and you're like, I'm making money for these other people, I want to make money for myself, don't take for granted everything you're gaining there.
Yeah.
And then note whether or not you're done gaining there. Like, I mean, there's also that part. One of the things that's interesting about my journey is all the pivots I made. I made a heck of a lot of pivots. So this brings it back to when I was broke.
Yeah.
It was easy for me to follow my faith and intuition. I'm like, bro, because I had nothing else.
Totally. Nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose and nothing else. I'm like, hey, if I try, what's going to happen? What's the worst? Now that I'm at another level, I find myself getting more caught in my brain, like getting caught up in my head and getting caught up in my processing, because I feel like there's just so much writing on anything I might do. And I don't want to make a misstep. I don't want to, for lack of a better way to put it, to really, really harness the energy. It's like, I can't fuck this up.
Yeah.
It's like you cannot mess this up. You have so many people riding for you, with you, and it's your serving. You have such a big movement that you're creating. You cannot fuck this up. You know what I mean? So I think like for me, it's really been the process that I'm going through right now has a lot to do with that as well, where I'm like, ooh, you know, let me get out of my head and follow my spirit again, even at this level.
Mm. Well, do you have the experience of like you run into more resistance? Well, one with like um, the more power, like the more how do you say it? Like the more likely you are for that thing to bring you abundance or transformation, to resist it the most. Almost like where you're about to see the most growth, it's like you feel the most resistance. At least that's been my experience. And so I wonder if that's something you've been running into on the, you know, nutrition front, because that is something I see often with people and shifting food. It's like, wow, this could really, really change how I feel day to day. And like that's also scary because you know, going back to like holding on to old parts of ourselves because that's what we know. Um, yeah, I mean,
I think so because while me being in the midst of all this transformation is also me trying to hold on to something that feels familiar.
hmm.
Because
what
that
what feels familiar day to day right now?
nothing. Literally nothing. That's why I feel like I'm just like I'm not
You're looking at
falling.
you're looking at these couches and you're like, I can't even fucking sleep on my
I'm
couch.
uncomfortable. I'm like, I gotta get a TV in my room because I want to lay down and watch TV. You know, so like, and now like let's just, and then I'm fighting against like I don't want to buy a TV because I have the money for that. I'm like, but I kind of do though. You know, like it's I this is no granted this is first world problems to have. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? But but speaking
but
to
they come from problems that you know may not have been the most first world 20 years ago.
well, that's true. I mean, when I think about the trajectory that I was supposed to be on because I became a teen mom and the route that I chose, you know, while being a teen mom, and like also just being, you know, thankful for the support that I had, or just the understanding of how to get support when it wasn't there. Right. So, like, you know, I may have lived in a city with my children where I'm like, my mom wasn't right there.
Yeah,
Right. But I did things like put my kids into sports, you know,
yeah,
partially because, yes, they needed to be active, but I also needed to find a mom group.
yeah,
And then we would trade off. Sometimes I keep their kids, sometimes I keep my kid. You
yeah,
know, I think the same thing about business. Is
yeah.
like, and on this level, though, some of it is paid, right? So like
Mhm.
you and I met through an amazing mastermind,
Yeah,
you know, that Katie Shannon does, right? So looking at that and being like, but you got to pay for that.
yeah,
So where's and when you do enter into those spaces, it's more abundance available, but
yeah.
not being afraid of that first paid entry point to get into that space. And but that is a psychological thing. Like for so long, it's like you don't got to pay for a community or like you don't got to pay for a group of people. But like when you want to get to a group that is a higher level thinking community,
Yeah,
you may have to pay for access to that. And then you got to find where in your budget
yeah,
that you can pay. Because when I started working with Show, I worked with Show for 6 months doing
yeah,
intuitive coaching. And when I met her, I'm like, I know my spirit was just like, you got to do this.
yeah,
But my mind was like, you ain't got the money for this.
yeah,
This lady's about to charge you X amount of thousands. You ain't got the money for it. but I also was like, I can't afford not to do it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I've had coaches that I've worked with, and they were above my pay grade. But I will say that working with them, I tripled my income, so it was all worth it. But at the same time, it's like it's and they weren't giving me business advice, right? Like it was more spiritual, like for me at least, and that's running up against that fear and helping to raise that self-worth, because you can only be as worthy as you believe you are, right? So like it's, and that sounds so esoteric, but for some reason it freaking works.
No, it's real. I mean, the curriculum I just launched, which is called Jetpack, while it's great for the business part, it's really about the founder.
Yeah.
And
Well,
about the way the founder is able to think about, like the way I'm able to get into rooms, have conversations, and able to think about my business on a
yeah,
different level or see myself on a different level.
yeah,
That's also, I think, as I've transformed and as I'm in this transformation period and we're moving toward like, well, what is Black Girl Ventures going to look like for the future? Who is Shelly Bell going to look like
yeah,
be for the future? I'm also running up against like, do I see myself in the position that I'm currently in? Like everybody around me sees it,
yeah.
right? Like I'm on MSNBC. We are,
Oh
giving
yeah,
out
you are.
capital left and right to Black and brown women founders. We are now reaching 1 million plus people. We are, have a staff, full-time staff of 5, a whole staff of about 10, 11 people. So like, and that all came from zero, right? Like,
Well,
and now I'm like, well, how do I see where I am, right? Like that's a constant. You think about the weight in the mirror versus the weight in the picture.
yeah. Do you find that the founders that you're supporting reflect back to you things like on your journey? Like I know a lot of times clients will bring up things where I'm like, I'm working on that too, and it's such a great reflection. So I think of like how much information is available to you just with like the founders that you're currently working with. And like those almost being part of your roadmap as to like, where do I go next?
Oof, you just gave me that just hit me too, because that just, yeah. So yes, I do feel like, so now when I think about the founders that give me the most resistance, oh man, you know what? This is where the writing on the wall is coming from. God damn it, Cami. Okay, because the question of are you willing to have it all relates to letting go of the resistance that I've been putting in place, even with his nutrition journey, even with my spiritual journey with this, with me learning Yoruba traditions and getting stronger and practicing Ifa and like even in like I am actually being some of the resistance that I meet from founders. Oh my God. Oh no. Oh my God. That literally, let me tell you, this founder the other day, I'm pitch coaching them. She did so great in the competition. I'm not gonna name her. But while we were in the set in the practice, I feel like we were fighting. I mean, like it was just like, girl, I'm trying to help you see. Do you see?
Yeah.
Like you have something bigger here. You only seeing your customers individuals. You could be working with like big, large companies and systems. Where are you? Come on, like see what I'm trying to tell you to see. And I'm like, oh shit. That's the same thing you're saying to me. Oh my God. I don't want to be her. I don't want to be that person.
But see, the thing is it's a journey. So it takes time, right? Like, where you were a month and a half ago is different to where you are now. And a lot of what I see like changing on all levels, like especially food, is like we have to go through these different stages of tantrums. And then eventually we're like, okay, I'm ready. And sometimes it's slow and sometimes it's like progress over time. But you need, part of it is that shift in perspective, right? And until you have that shift in perspective, it's hard to change.
Oh my God. I do not want to be that person that like argues with the person that can see bigger because they can't see bigger. Like, I do not want to do that. I'm going to stop doing that. We're not going to do that anymore. Starting today, starting right now, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Oh my God, even with some of the teachers, they're teaching like the different IFA practices like that. I feel like now thinking about this right now, I'm like, oh my God, I've been an asshole. Like just drink the freaking smoothies already. Okay. Like what? Oh no, that's okay. I got it. I'm there. We're doing it. We're doing smoothies this week. I did not do one smoothie last week.
Well,
but
we're turning over a new leaf.
Okay. Damn it. That reflection thing, that's huge.
Yeah. I mean, it's everywhere, right? Where it's like, if I feel like it's everywhere I look, I'm like, oh no, I don't want to see that. Oh no. Like,
people come into your life, and the people that are in your life are a reflection of who you are, and could be there to show you that you're actually reflecting that. And when you're no longer reflecting that, you will move on, or they will move on seamlessly without you having to force any of it. Right? Like, and that is what I have experienced, is that like when I have got the lesson and I'm no longer fighting, or like when I've got the lesson of what everybody around me is reflecting, if that person is not supposed to be there, they naturally move. Like, I don't have to force them to move. There's something happens for them and they move on their own. And that in some ways has been my indication of like, oh, okay, I'm no longer reflecting that. Right. So that's why they're not here. They're not here because of my conflict with them solely. They're not here because I'm actually no longer reflecting what they are. They're no longer reflecting what I am. Ugh.
Yeah. And that's why sometimes when you up level, like your life has to be completely bulldozed for it to happen, right? Like, talk about the past 6 months. It's like, oh, well, you know, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. It's like, it's all opening up, and it's not always pretty as it opens up. I mean, it's pretty, but it's not like easy.
I need a process. Cause like, I can't believe I'm being that person. It just dawned on me that, oh my God, I am being that person, yo. And I talk about this person all the time. Like, why they being like that? They need to stop being like that. They should just like, I'm trying to show you the way. I'm trying to give you the goods. I'm trying to, like, I'm coaching you and I'm telling you exactly what you need to know. And you're fighting me on it. Why are you doing that? Right. And so I'm like, oh my God, Cami, I'm sorry. Thank you for putting up with my nonsense, because I'm like, now I gotta text all my coaches and be like, thank y'all for putting up with my nonsense, because I just realized that I'm being that person that I usually coach, that I actually am like, what is wrong with them? I'm being that person.
Well, and I think we all need that reflection, right? Like, a coach needs that reflection too.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you a good coach, is that, like, you know, it may take a week or two for you to see it, but you see it. A week or 2 or 3,
Hey, listen, okay? Don't call me out. Don't tell nobody it's
well, girl, you've been doing a lot. You've been doing a lot on like every front, you know what I mean? So you've been processing so much too, that sometimes you don't have the space to process it all at once, and that's totally fine. That's human nature. If you could process that, the brain needs time to catch up with, like, the body. The body needs time to catch up with the brain. Like, when it happens too fast, I think, you can have like an ego death. We don't really, I mean, yeah, it's okay, but that's really, really, really painful.
All right. Well, what am I working on this week?
I think it's smoothies.
Definitely smoothies.
I think it's smoothies.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm not gonna be that person. We definitely gonna do smoothies.
You got this. And I want you to prepare to succeed, right? So, like, we talked about it before, right? Like, if you want to pre-package the smoothies so you can just dump them into the blender, add water, and make them in the morning, like, that makes things a lot easier.
All right, we're doing this.
We got this.
We're doing it. We got it. Yes. That just opened up a whole. Now I gotta go back and process all of that, because now I just opened up a whole like can of things that I need to go back and think through. Like,
I love it. It's Sunday, so it's a day of thought, right? Like, I love Sundays. I like to have all my aha moments on a Sunday.
All right. Well, if you have been watching, this is from Hustling and Handling, and today's theme or question was, "Am I willing to have it all?" Cami Wolf has follow her on Instagram at canis.with.camille. She also has a cleanse. You have a cleanse coming up, Cami?
Yep, it starts October 5th. It's a 9-day liver cleanse. If you'd like to find more information, head over to my Instagram or my website at caniswithcamille.com.
Yeah, and I did the cleanse. A couple of friends of mine now have done it, and it's really great, like really amazing to just like reset, go through your personal, like shed some of your personal things, figure out what's in your way, like remove some roadblocks, all through cleansing your liver in a food process. So, yeah, it was really, really great. Yeah, we'll be here. Our goal is to be here every Sunday. If not, just wait till the next Sunday. So we'll be back. This has been really, really great. I'm just
so good to see you.
Yeah, I always get to talk. I
All right.
appreciate you.
I'll see you next week.
All right, sounds good.